Broadcasting live from downtown Las Vegas, you're tuned in to Guerilla Cross Radio.
Yo, you tuned in to Guerilla Cross Radio. All right. Here we go. Wednesday night, just past 9 p.m. You're tuned into Guerilla Cross Radio. Your home for 24/7 positive hip-hop, music, culture, and sports, of course. I'm your host, Jose V. This is another episode of Straight Bet Sports. We are coming to you live from the sports and entertainment capital of the world, none other than Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, you had many opportunities to do whatever you wanted to tonight, but you decided to tune in to us and check out our show. We greatly appreciate you. We got a great show on tap tonight. We got the owner of the Las Vegas Lights here in Las Vegas, none other than Brett Lashbrook in the studio. He will be joining us here shortly as well. We're going to talk all things lights, see what's coming up for this upcoming season after that, and just overall, what can we expect moving forward. Got my co-host Rob G in the building.
Yo.
Finally took the training wheels off, so he's doing a little better tonight. We'll see how it goes. Got Joel B in the background as always, making sure we get all our behind-the-scenes pictures, videos, and everything else. Greatly appreciate you, bro. Not only that, tonight we got the owner of Free Your Soul brand. Hooked me up with my t-shirt today. Jaime in the studio. Greatly appreciate you as well. Quan doing everything behind the big board as he always does, keeping us going every single Wednesday night and beyond. Greatly appreciate you. Now, before we get started, it is Pride Month, so I just got to say out there to everybody, whether you're gay, lesbian, straight, tranny, whatever it may be that you choose to be, enjoy your month. This is your month. Don't let anybody take anything away from you guys. We're all human beings, no matter what, at the end of the day. So happy Pride Month to everybody out there. Now, before we jump into it with our guest co-host of the evening, Mr. Brett Lashbrook of the Las Vegas Lights, let's go ahead and pay some bills real quick. Let you know about our sponsor. If you guys listen to our show every single Wednesday night, you do know that we are brought to you by Joshua Lafond with Simply Vegas Real Estate, a realtor here to help you educate current and future Las Vegas locals on selling and investing in real estate. You're probably asking yourself, educate? Well, yes, there's a lot of surprising people in Las Vegas that when it comes to real estate do not know the right questions to ask, don't know where to start, and think that they need a lot of cash to buy a house in Nevada, which simply isn't true. So Josh has made it his responsibility to teach his clients what they need to know, and equally more important, what they need to ask to help ensure making their home ownership dreams a reality. So make sure you call or text Joshua Lafond today at 702-813-0533. This has been a paid advertisement by Joshua Lafond with Simply Vegas Real Estate, 702-813-0533. Now, Rob, we got a good one in store tonight.
Yes, we do.
We got someone out here that we have a lot of questions for, but it's going to be a good show, definitely. So without further ado, right in front of me, we do have none other than Brett Lashbrook, owner and CEO of your Las Vegas Lights. Brett, thank you so much for joining us in studio. How's your evening going?
Fantastic. I love the setup here. I had no idea this was here. This is fantastic.
So, Brett, you've had a busy day. You've been on a couple other shows as well.
Sure, yeah.
We'll get into
it's
all
a busy
that.
week.
Yeah, busy last couple of days. We'll definitely get into that, but I wanted to jump in right in with you. How's everything going with you, your family, and everything since this whole COVID situation has happened with the league shutting down temporarily and all that? How has it affected you guys overall so far?
Well, me personally, you know, my wife and I, my family, we're all healthy and safe and healthy.
Good to hear.
So far, so good. Knock on wood. No players have contracted the disease. Obviously, continuing to take a lot of measures to make sure we can get the season back going. So from that perspective, we're blessed, and you know everyone is healthy. I'll give a shout out to Harry on our staff who was exposed and is having a tough time, but he's healthy. But
okay.
But you know, for better or for worse, that's the extent in the Lights family. Obviously, from I'll call it an economy point of view and a business point of view, we were just talking about before we came on the air, right? I mean, I don't think there's a business really globally that hasn't been affected by this.
Definitely.
And, to make it hyper local, I think all of us, it certainly wasn't the 2020 that we had planned or the business model that any of us, from you, me, to the studio, had. But, you roll with the punches, and let's hope for a much better end to 2020 than the beginning.
So it's been a very interesting last couple of days. What can fans expect? I mean, straightforward. What can fans expect coming up with this 2020 season? Obviously, it's going to be a shortened season here. We see 16 games, I believe.
Yeah.
And they're going to have some type of playoff format as well.
Yeah.
Have you talked to your guys, your players? What are they ready? Are they expecting this to be a great season, even though it's short?
Yeah, obviously there's a lot of different ways I can take that question, and I'm sure we'll get into the multiple of those ways. But, I spoke with the team last week, and I think the word that we all kept using is it's incredibly unique. And everyone's going to have to be a little nimble, and this is not going to be like any other league or season, right? Let's put it that way. We are attempting to be the first professional sports league to cross state lines and play home matches in different markets. And that is going to, not just as you talked about, we're going to restructure the schedule and make it very hyper-regionalized. It's going to be a shorter season. And this is, we used to fly all over the country. We're going to be doing a lot more buses, right? I mean, all of those types of things that go into social distancing, et cetera, and, not knock on wood, we can stay safe and healthy.
Now, you were just mentioning it to some of the guys outside as well. How is it going to be without fans? Have they told you guys if they're going to allow, whether it's a couple down the road, or how's that going to work as well?
I mean, we're at the mercy of Governor Sisolak, right? I mean, it's just as simple as that. I saw his comments earlier tonight. Right, we are still,
which makes it a lot more tougher.
Yeah, we're still, squarely in phase 2, which is no fans, right? I think the exact terminology is no more than 50 people. Well, once you get two sets of teams and referees and a broadcast crew and a couple staff members to just put on a professional soccer match, right? Let's just say you get to 50 very quickly. So for the foreseeable future, right, we're playing games, at least home games, with no fans. I've said this, and there's an 800-pound gorilla with the Las Vegas Raiders and Allegiant Stadium that opens next month. Clearly, I get it. It's data-driven, not date-driven. But I have to believe when that event happens, there certainly is that chance that we allow to open up the stadium more. We're at the discretion of the government, and fully understand, right? Not trying to politic here in any way, shape, or form. My guess is once we are able to let a limited number of fans in, we'll do that exclusively for season ticket members, with the hope, right, that we all can get back to normal as soon as possible, and by September/October, we can have a full house or close to it. But I know that's subject to a lot of things, not just the government, but also people feeling comfortable coming back to a stadium.
So you mentioned the fans and the season ticket holders. Yeah. I've had a few supporters and season ticket holders reach out to me as well.
Yeah.
A lot of the questions, majority of the same question that I'm getting is, what happens if fans aren't allowed back in? Is there a plan in place for these season ticket holders to get refunded and get some of their money
Sure.
back?
So we've reached out to season ticket holders, I'm going to call it 6 weeks ago, right? Don't hold me to that date, when we didn't know if we were going to play or not. And we basically said, we understand the uncertainty. We don't like it either. So we're happy to provide a refund, but we will, if we are able to play games this year, we'll give those to you for free, and we'll roll everything over to next year. So I call it, with a smile on my face, you now get 1 to 1.5-ish seasons for the price of one. But again, we don't know if we can let fans in the stadium this year. I just have to believe that we will, but again, that may be wishful thinking. But that's how we're handling season ticket holders, and we've said we understand. We fully understand this is a tough time for everyone, so if someone needs to get that refund, we're certainly open to it.
So you've always said the Las Vegas Lights are the most interesting team in the world.
Yes.
You like to do your promotions and your crazy stunts.
Well, Sports Illustrated said it, not me.
All right.
Yes.
So we'll quote Sports Illustrated. Yeah. Sports Illustrated said it. Now, we just talked about the fans. Once again, going back to that, if we end up having fans, do you still plan on doing any type of the promotions that you already had in line for this season, maybe switching it up a bit?
So the promotional calendar that we came out with in January, February, obviously that's out the window, right? I mean, I think we got to just play this by ear, right, on how we do it, right? This could be an incredibly unique season in that sense. So I can promise you confetti. I don't know if I can promise you every other promotion that we had lined up.
So another question, and this did come from a social media person, and I just want to throw that out there to you. Channel 8 has said that the club has already lost hundreds of thousands of dollars by not playing, and that the team will probably lose $1 million if they don't play games with fans at Cashman. With that reported, how can fans believe that the club will be here beyond next year?
Because we're in it for the long haul, right? And I don't know how else to answer that question, right? Of this team isn't going anywhere. It's funny. I had this conversation with my family the other day, right? There's pros and cons to being an entrepreneur, right? And there are, on the good years, you can't take the good years and not take the bad years, right? And if it was simple and straightforward and you always knew what the future held, we'd all be a lot richer here in Las Vegas. So, as a league collectively, it was decided to come back. And my view at that point is, listen, that's not our business model, right? The business model is live entertainment on Saturday nights. But in the short term, I'm willing to do it if it's part of the recovery. And we see a roadmap of, okay, Allegiant Stadium's opening, et cetera, et cetera. We think we can start to get fans in there. We get something in the books for this season. And this is going to sound cheesy, but I really do believe it. Sports is part of that intangible fabric of a community, right? You're wearing sports hats, right? It means something where you don't wear widget company hats.
We're also fans, basically, at the end of the day.
Yeah, and so I think there is part of the, I don't want to sound too cheesy, but I think it's part of the recovery process for the community. So long term, it is not sustainable, but in the short term, we'll play with no fans. Because we really believe what this can be and what this can be in future years.
So your long-term goal is still to bring an MLS team here, or at least translate this Lights team into an MLS team?
Yeah, so I'm going to give you a nuanced answer, which is what I've always said. And we can talk about it more, right? But last year, the mayor's office and an investor approached us about a huge redevelopment in downtown, right? The mayor's office and city council is still under a 6-month exclusive negotiation agreement with that was re-signed in April during the pandemic, right, which goes through October. Their very strong belief in the mayor's direction is she wants to ensure that professional soccer is in downtown for decades and decades to come. Their intent is to turn the Lights into a Major League Soccer team. If that was not to happen, I do not want to misrepresent that I or my family have the funds to turn this into a Major League Soccer team, but we will always have pro soccer downtown. So when all this came out last year of is the team being sold or not, I really did mean it then, and I mean it now. It's only upside. It can only mean more. It can't mean less.
So the team's not going anywhere.
The team is not going anywhere.
Regardless of what happens 100%. With the MLS.
We're in year 3 of a 15-year lease. We are not going anywhere.
Got it. So year 3, let's jump into it. Eric Wynalda.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's the hot topic out there. I mean, there's rumors that rules were broken. You've stuck by that.
I don't think it's rumors, but yeah.
I'm just saying that he's broken rules, and then he was aware of the practice, but wasn't actually part of it. I mean, what went down? I mean, before you answer that, my question is, in year 1, you had Chelis, which in the eyes of a lot of people was great because he brought excitement and stuff that the fans wanted to see as a fan.
Yeah.
Didn't really bring the product on the field that you would want as a coach.
Right.
And in year 2, you bring in a guy like Eric, which turned your club around. More wins. Your goalkeeper had shutout records. The fans still kept coming. And it was excitement throughout the stadium. What really happened with Eric? Why was he let go?
So the short answer is multiple violations of club and league rules, including protocols that were agreed to with the USL Players Association. And this came up in the interview earlier today.
Correct.
There was a clear red line of what was the expectation, not just from the club, but from the league and the Players Association, right, of how this would be handled during a pandemic, right, and what type of medical, people would be there, what type of social distancing, what type of return to play protocols, how many people could be at the field, how, where, and when, who, why, where, what,
when, where, how.
all of that. And I had spoken with the full team probably 10 days before, and laid it all out. I'll say incredibly clearly. And unfortunately, that wasn't followed. And candidly, when it's one thing to break a rule, it's one thing to break it blatantly, and it's another thing not to own up to it when it happens.
So I'm not asking you to name names. Obviously, we're not trying to get anyone in trouble. But how was this brought to your attention? And did you bring this up to the league's attention, or was it brought to you, then you went to the league, or was the league made aware of, and then you were made aware of the situation?
There were multiple people that made me aware of the situation. And then when I learned of it, I informed the league, hey, this has occurred. We apologize for it. These are the actions that we've taken. And, to date, they haven't expressed that they don't want to do anything more than that.
So is there an ongoing investigation, or has it already been proven that he's broken league rules?
I wouldn't say an investigation per se, right? I mean, my investigation is over. Let me put it that way, right? And then I have turned that over to the league and told them exactly what happened, and that this is the decision I took, right? And I'm sure this will come up, right? I made this decision. I own this decision 100%. This was my decision. So my hope is that we can put it behind us, but of course the league can do what it chooses. But to date, they haven't expressed that they'll do more.
So Rob and I were actually talking about it on the way here. We don't know the ins and outs of it. Obviously, you're the owner. You know the way it works.
Yeah.
You know the decisions that you can make. But was it really that bad that you couldn't go to bat for him or try to make this right and keep him around?
So I think what I've said before is, I think there's a lesson there. And I want to preface it by saying, Eric's not a bad person, right? This is, I just want to preface that, right? But sometimes the lie is worse than the act, and sometimes the lie about the lie is worse than the act in the lie, right?
I got you.
And at a certain point when everyone in the locker room understands that line has been crossed, and there's not an owning up to it, right? That's when it comes on to me, right? As the team owner, team president, the boss, right, of what is and isn't acceptable. And I made it clear that this wasn't acceptable. So I own that decision. I've said this a handful of times, and I know it sounds cliche. I didn't want to do it. I didn't, wake up that day thinking, here it is, right? This came to my attention. I asked a few people, found more information, asked Eric again, kept getting different answers, and realized, okay, we've crossed that line.
I want to chime in a little bit. What are some of the players have said? I mean, have the players said anything to you about what you're about your decision?
Yeah, so I met with them all the next day, and what I would say is, listen, they're all available to come on the show and to speak for themselves, right? I don't think, and this shouldn't be a surprise, there are people in that locker room that are very loyal to Eric, and certainly they express, hey, why did this happen, right? And we again went through what happened, and I think we had a really good conversation, right? I bet we spent 90 minutes with the players, right, talking about why this decision was made, what has happened, how do we go on from here. I would say players had the chance to air their points of view. I was able to air my point of view, and I'll tell you, at the end of that 90 minutes, I felt really good about the group of guys we had in that room.
So it's safe to say that some of the players support your decision.
I don't want to speak for them, right? I think that would be wrong for me to put words in their mouth. But I would say no one in that locker room doesn't understand why it happened.
Okay.
So where do we go here? Where do we go moving forward? I mean, I heard you on the show earlier this morning on ESPN. You talked about that you're possibly going to get a firm, that you're thinking about possibly short-term just for this season, and then long-term coming out. I mean, I've heard that you travel to Santa Barbara or something like that to go talk to someone to try to become a coach. How did those talks go? I mean, do you already have someone written in stone that you already want, or are you still looking out there?
So still looking. So yeah, I did engage a third-party firm just to help me. So there's a couple different layers to that answer. One is there's a very much an immediacy to this, right? This is
season's right around the corner.
Yeah, to state the obvious, this is very far from ideal with the timing. So I have engaged I'll call it a search firm, for lack of a better term, to just help me identify and help me vet through candidates, right? So this is all fresh, so we got to move quickly. And then there's a question in my mind. I guess it's a two-part answer at this point. There's an immediate caretaker situation, right? That we need someone to come in here who understands the situation and isn't going to mess up the chemistry, right? It was only one game, but we are in the middle of a season, right? So there's an aspect of this is the team. How do we all rally together, and how do we fix that, right? And that's a very, I'll call it a more short term, right? That's a 4-month issue, and then figuring out, okay, what do we want to do long term, right? And there's I've said this and I'll say it again, right? It's embarrassing. This is not how I planned the club to go, right?
Definitely,
that we
of
would
course
have this many coaches at this point in time. And there's no one else I can blame but myself, right? That at the end of the day, I make the hires. I have to live and die by them. Not to sound too melodramatic, but you know what I mean,
Of
right?
course.
And so I am admittedly hesitant to go jump into, I'll call it my third marriage, right? And
Yeah.
2.1 seasons, right? That there's an aspect of, Brett, you have got to get this next decision right. You 100% have to get this right. And so what I have expressed to candidates is I'm looking for someone who can come in right now and work with these players that we have, and let's get the best out of this situation that we can. But I want some flexibility to be able next year to make adjustments as I see fit. And what I would say is, I guess we're going on a week now. In that week, in my mind, I've started to adjust the thinking from, oh my God, right? Look at this timing, to, hey, glass is half full. We have the opportunity here to, and I don't want this to come off the wrong way, to further adjust and further tinker to make sure that we are optimizing the soccer side. And that is, I want to be very clear, that is not a passive-aggressive dig in any way, shape, or form, right? That is, every year you operate a business, you learn a little bit more about how to do this. How does this league operate? What type of the profile? How are you spending resources? How are you, versus, I'll call it the bells and whistles versus more into the player budget, et cetera, right? And so I am now coming around to, we do have the opportunity to just further refine that, because, and I'm giving you a really long-winded answer here, right?
Hey,
but
go for it.
There is and I'm sure we'll talk about the marketing and all that, but I am to my core, I believe that, the two aspects of this club, once we get both of them operating at full speed and productivity, efficiency, whatever the word is, it's sky's the limit for the Las Vegas Lights. And we've got this great fan base. We have this home field advantage,
Definitely.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Talk about the most interesting team, et cetera, right? We have some really good things working on that side, and I say it all the time, right? This is not Reno, Tulsa, or Birmingham, right? This is Las Vegas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we are given an advantage just by being that, but we haven't to date gotten the soccer side fully right, and startup, et cetera. But once we get both of those operating right, and we're winning games consistently, and we're doing X, Y, and Z, and we're making the playoffs consistently, and we're going far, we have the ability, when you put that with the rest of the club infrastructure, to do something really, really cool. So it's really unfortunate where we're at, but my mind has shifted in the last couple of days as I'm talking to more and more, different candidates of, okay, how do we take the hands that's dealt to us, and how do we get the soccer side right to match the other sides of the organization, right?
Mm-hmm.
And really make sure, and when I'm going to say starting in 2021, that we're really getting that going. That doesn't mean we're giving up on 2020 in any way, shape, or form, but this is an incredibly unique next 3 months, right? So it's a long-winded answer, but I don't know if that answered your full question.
No worries. Now, the only other thing that I did want to kind of run off here real quick was, it was mentioned in Alan Snell's article in LV Sports Biz when he spoke to Eric that there was something about a pay cut. I'm not going to go into percentages and all that, but...
No, let's.
So, okay, 70% is what's being said on there.
Completely and utterly false.
Now, I've heard that it was less than that. My question is, did Eric sign this contract?
Yes.
And if so, did he sign it before he got fired?
Yes.
So, if he signs a contract that's way less and it shows that he cares about his players, why wouldn't you go to bat for him a little more to try to keep him around?
Well, I think there's some nuanced answers to that, right?
Just
I'll start at the end, because there's bright red lines, and
I know there's things you can't answer and can't say. I get it.
I'm going to answer pretty right. There's don't cross the red line, don't lie to your boss.
Okay.
Right. So we'll start that as a baseline, which I own 100%, and I don't think that's an unreasonable standard. As it relates to, and I don't mind going into it because I'll call it just the completely false comments that have been made. Eric had a guaranteed contract through July 1st.
Okay.
Since early March or whenever it was when the world changed, like multiple businesses around town, right, we have had to furlough and terminate a multitude of people on our front office staff. The players and Eric continued to get paid 100% because they had guaranteed contracts.
Okay.
The players will continue to get paid. The players have not missed any paycheck, haven't played in 100 days, but have continued to get paid as if though they're playing every week, because there's a contract and we're going to honor that contract.
Okay.
Eric had a contract that was guaranteed through July 1st. Earlier this month, I went to Eric and said, hey, listen, we're coming back next month. Your contract's up, right? It goes to at will. Everyone else in the organization has taken a haircut here, right? We don't have fans. We're not playing games. We are, don't cry for me, but this is a real pandemic, right?
Correct,
and the team is candidly bleeding money. Doesn't mean we're going away. Every company is bleeding money right now, right? So I said, Eric, it's only fair that you take a cut. And I said, what I think it should be, I said, I'll make it reasonable, a 15%, 15% blended cut. So you take your rate from what you got paid from the first game all the way to wherever the last game is, right? So it was, candidly, it was going to be anywhere between 14 and 17%, right?
Okay.
Depending on when the final date is and if you make the playoffs, et cetera, et cetera. To Eric's credit, he signed that, he accepted that, and he did that. And Eric deserves credit for taking a salary cut in the middle of the pandemic. But that salary cut started on July 1st. So it had nothing to do with this. It was all signed and done. And I share all those details because I was surprised and disappointed to read some of the comments that were attributed to him about the compensation.
So say this got to the league, right? Say, whatever happened. Quote Allen Iverson, we're talking about practice. Right?
We're talking about honesty.
Right. No, and so it's more of honesty with, your relationship with him.
It's also not putting the players at risk, right? There's a reason why the league and the Players Association had agreed on certain protocols and et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. And so say the league came back, say you submitted an investigation or you submitted whatever.
Right.
And then the league came back and said, we recommend this. And it wasn't firing of the coach.
Yeah.
Like, you're still okay with making that decision that you made, even if the league wasn't going to recommend that? You're trying to be ahead of the league and be like, I know they're going to ask to fire him, so let me just go ahead and fire, or let me, let me just let him go.
It's come out so much, and Eric has made comments. I want to answer your question incredibly directly.
Okay.
I think I said it earlier in the show as well, so I'm going to use the same line. It wasn't the act so much as the lie about the act and the lie about the lie.
Okay, and then again, he's trying to make the team better. At the end of the day, I think he's looking to make the team better. We're talking about practice. We're not talking about some get together.
Yeah, so I would just disagree with, and again, it's a healthy debate, right?
No, of course,
I would
absolutely.
disagree with the connotation that was just practice. It was the practice in the middle of a pandemic where a unionized employee base had agreed upon certain types of minimum standards. And the league had set forth rules as to not only what could happen at those things, but I'll call it player-first implementation of a handful of things. And that not occurring, especially when, from a club perspective, right, we had been incredibly clear for this to happen, X, Y, and Z has to happen first. And so I realize we're kind of beating around the bush a little bit, right? But there was a clear red line that was set forth when I met with all the players, I'll call it 10 days ago. Well, it was more than that, right? 10 days before that, so 2-3 weeks ago, of what would happen on these practices. And when I found out that was not happening, that's when I made the decision.
Do you think the league would have came back with a recommendation to let him go?
I'll go back to, he was let go because of the lie about the act. The act itself, I don't know what the league would have said, right? But there certainly would have been a fine and a penalty of some sort. But I proactively said, this isn't work for me, right? So I own this 100%. The decision on the punishment.
Yeah, because you're doing interviews all week, and taking all this, you could be on your couch right now, just waiting for the league to start on July 11th.
What they've said is, I forget what they've told us on calls versus what they've said publicly, but on or about July 11th.
Okay.
Obviously there's
right around the corner, man.
There's a lot of things coming up and down from different states, but I certainly, let's call it on or about July 11th.
Once again, I am Jose V. This is another episode of Straight Bet Sports. We are on the Guerilla Cross Radio Network. Tonight we are joined by none other than Brett Lashbrook, owner and CEO of your Las Vegas Lights here in Las Vegas. Of course, got Rob G in the studio as well. So Brett, what can fans expect for the remainder of this season? Short season. Yeah. What can they expect on the field?
It's if the guys rally around this, like I believe they can in the way in our last meeting with them. I think everyone saw a team on that first game at San Diego that we outshot them. I think it was 21-2.
Big difference,
and got a draw, but I think you talk to anyone neutral, they would say that we outplayed them. That team's still there, right? That team is 100% there, right? It's clearly a unique situation where we're going to play.
And it's a team that has a couple of your old players as well.
Meaning San Diego. Oh, yeah, San Diego, yeah.
You got Parr over there. You have
Mendiola was over there.
Yeah. Carlos Alvarez, I'm sorry. Yeah.
When do you expect to make an announcement about the next coach?
So I am in active conversations. When I actually told a candidate right before I walked in here, I would like to make a decision by Friday, Saturday, and definitely no later than Monday, Tuesday.
Does it feel rushed? I mean, does it?
Yeah, it does. It does, and that's part of when I go back to, do I do something of who's the best candidate for this 4-month sprint season versus who's the best candidate long term, because I don't want to keep, again, embarrassed of how much time we've changed coaches, right? So do I make that conscientious decision of, we're going to have someone who's best for this incredibly unique situation, and then we're going to do a hard reset, and we're going to start again, on quote unquote, on the soccer side, let's call it after the season, right? October, November. So listen, there are coaches out there that say, hey, I'm interested, but I'm not coming for 3 months. I want, an X number of year deal. And I think you used the word perfectly, right? It does feel rushed. And I would say, in a very candid moment, it's me being incredibly, I don't want to say gun shy, right? But there's a lot of self-reflection going on of, what do I need to do to make sure that this team has the best chance of success moving forward? And I would agree that rushing into a quote unquote third marriage may not be the best. Now, there are candidates out there that are a unique profile that maybe it is. So don't read fully into my comments there, but just know I'm loogood at both options.
Would it be July before or after July 1st?
Tell me what today. What's Monday?
Good question. Monday.
I know days of the week.
Monday's 29th.
I would hope that it would be this month then.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, this month.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So a few days away, basically. Safe to say.
I no later than early next week is certainly my 100% intention. I life happens, but that is certainly the goal.
So obviously there's a lot going on in the world right now, aside from what's going on with soccer and everything here in Las Vegas, with the Black Lives, the Black Lives Matter movement and racial injustice and all that. Now, something was brought to my attention that I wanted to ask you about. Yeah. There's 35 teams in the USL. Out of those 35, only 34 has voiced their support for the Black Lives Matter movement. Yeah. Not trying to put you on the spot here, but you're the only organization that has not.
So I appreciate you bringing that up. I didn't realize that. I had this conversation with Jordan.
Jordan Morrell,
Jordan Morrell, who we were talking about. Sorry to be too casual with that. We have talked about when we bring the team back of doing something.
Okay,
right?
Nice.
Listen, when I hear it like that, right, I think we've missed the boat, right? I'll say that. I'll say personally, I think actions speak a lot louder than words. Doesn't mean you don't need both. So I know we have things planned for that first home game, and throughout the season on that. So I would hope that our actions, or maybe the words, right, as you bring that up, that our actions, I'll call it one of, if not the most diverse sports organizations in Las Vegas, that would carry some weight, but we need to address that.
So safe to say you want your players to learn and understand the situation. Not necessarily don't say anything, but that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying you're saying you don't want them to say nothing, but when the time is right, you guys are going to come out and do it.
No, I thought you were asking as far as from an organization.
No, just in general. Just
I have no issue with players speaking their mind on any type of social, political. I mean, clearly there's some lines that they can't cross, but I don't have any issue, zero issue with players expressing themselves. Okay. None at all.
Perfect. Now, before we got on the show, we were also talking about Devontae Woodson, Greater Youth Sports Association. I had him on the show last week. He's actually watching the show, and he has a question for you, which is funny because it's the same thing we're talking about.
Perfect.
So he says, Brett, what's up, man? What's your goals for impacting the Las Vegas youth this next year?
When you mean this, you mean the 2021 season. So it's funny, Devontae. We were just Jose was showing me your book, and I actually asked for your
book, by the way.
I actually asked for your contact information. So this is a little weird bromance that's coming on here. So we partnered with Zappos, who obviously does so much for the community. And there's Zappos for Good on donating tickets, and we have made it a conscious effort of how do we do more to, I'll call it, lower socioeconomic youth organizations. Obviously the whole youth soccer market is incredibly important to us. But Devontae, we literally were just talking about you right before we came on the air about the cost of youth soccer and how we need to get more kids playing and more affordable. So I'd love to donate tickets, Devontae, through Zappos for Good. So we'll get in touch offline.
There you go, Devontae.
And I mean that.
We have it on record.
Yeah, not to hurt myself, pat myself on the back here, right? I don't mean Devontae like 10 tickets for one game, right? Let's figure out something season long.
Nice, okay.
Where we can do something
on a regular.
Yeah, that's more meaningful.
Awesome. Well, Brett, we greatly appreciate your time.
I appreciate it, guys.
Appreciate you being here. I know it's late, and like Rob said, you've been out all day on different shows for the last couple of days doing things. So
I would just add that because I read the comments online, right? I see it. I understand
the frustrations of fans and things like that.
I understand all that. I know it sounds shallow or hollow or what the word I'm looking for. I feel your pain, right? This was not how it was supposed to go. This was not how it was supposed to end. This is not what we're supposed to be focusing on at the end of June, right? With 3 to 4 weeks before the season starts. But this is the hand we've been dealt. I own the decision 100%, and I understand we talk about action speaking louder than words, right? I am 100% in every fiber of my being. I want to get this right. I want to make Las Vegas Lights on and off the field something incredibly special. And I think we have the fan base and the community and the stadium and the league and everything that goes around that, the staff, the organization, the infrastructure, for us to do something really, really special. And it is incredibly frustrating and disappointing, and just makes you scream in the mirror as to what's happened in the last week and how it's derailed us. But we are going to get this back on. And I understand why fans are frustrated. All I'd say is know that I am every single day trying to figure out how do we make this better. And we are going to get the soccer side right, and we are going to figure out how to continue to grow this team in this sport in Las Vegas.
So one last thing, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
When you get the new guy, we're going to have both of you in studio and talk it up, or what?
Absolutely, yes.
All right, you guys heard it here first. As soon as the new guy gets signed, we'll have him here in studio.
I didn't say as soon as, but at
we
some
get
point,
a chance.
yeah.
After he gets signed and we get a chance, we'll get him in the studio. Well, Brett, definitely appreciate you, man.
I appreciate it, guys.
Hopefully this isn't the last time. We got to get you in here again. Best of luck for the remaining of the season, and whoever the coach is, man, let's get a good one in here.
There you go. Viva Lights.
Viva Lights, baby.
Right, thank you.
He is Brett Lashbrook. This is Straight Bet Sports. I'm your host, Jose V, with Rob G. Quan taking care of us behind the big board as well. Great interview, man. Great stuff there.
Yeah, it was good. I give you credit, obviously for having to do all this all week, and then or for however long it's been. I'm sorry, a few days or whatever. But you answered all our questions head on. You didn't run from anything. You took everything, like a
champ,
like a freight train, like a champ, like a freight train. You told us before we went on air. You asked me anything you want. I own this, and I give you credit for that. Absolutely, for
that is
everything.
You're right. That is one thing that we got to say on air. Before we got on air, you did say, "I own to whatever I say. Ask me whatever you want."
Yeah,
so we appreciate that, Brett. We appreciate you. Have
guys.
a great night. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, Viva Lights.
Viva Lights.
Brett.
All right, man. So that was fun. That was cool. Got a lot of comments on the social media there on the Facebook.
Thank you, brother.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah, that was good. Like I said, I was gonna say it before or after he left.
So
I give him credit.
So we're gonna have Duane Colucci come on here shortly, but before we do that,
where's
Rob,
Duane?
I know where's Duane. We gotta talk a little bit of sports and horses here, but what did you take from all of that? Are you excited now? Are you just interested to see who the guy is more than anything? Or are you just excited to see how the season's gonna go?
Yeah, I hope it's long term. I mean, it's super tough to find someone that quickly under the timeline that he has set up. So, like you said, third marriage. how long is this marriage going to last, though? Is it only going to last? I don't even know how long the season is. Excuse me, but 3 months. 3 months. Is it going to last 3 months? Is marriage going to last 3 months, or is it going to be a marriage that lasts 2, 3, 4 years? Whatever it may be. So it's interesting. I do like how he came on though and answered every question. No problem. Didn't try to shy away from anything. And
so who do you go after though? I mean, like we talked about it before. You had Chalice, which great show, but not the greatest coach. You have a U.S. soccer legend in Eric Wynalda that knows what he's doing, and he changed the culture. We saw that. We saw that in year 2. Joel can attest to this too because he went to almost every game with me. You can see the transformation that he did with this team, not only on the field but off the field with the fans and the fan support as well. How do you replace that? I mean, if you're Brett, who are you looking to go after? Are you going to get someone else with that type of pedigree? Are you getting a new guy, a young guy, an older guy with experience? I mean, who do you go after?
That's a tough
right.
That's super tough. I honestly I wouldn't have anyone to name or anything like that, but it's got to be someone that's going to catch some people's attention, because especially if they're going to try to draw fans back into. He drew fans into the stadium. It wasn't just the team.
And it's not like they didn't have fans though, but he drew even more.
Of course, he drew fans into the stadium. It wasn't just the team. So it's got to be. They're going to lose some supporters just based off of that. But so you got to know that already. You're going to lose some supporters just based off of that firing. So you got to bring someone that's going to draw. Maybe not the same amount of fans, but someone
at least bring those other fans back.
Yeah, exactly. Bring some of those fans back, because that's the only way he's going to make. Well, that's the only way he's going to make money in my mind, is by bringing some of those people that are leaving because they fired Eric. So, yeah.
So let's be real. Do you believe everything that he answered, the way he answered, or are you skeptical about some of his answers?
100% honest, I believe him 100%. I believe him 100%. Maybe the numbers were off a little bit. Maybe the 70% he said.
That's high. It went from 70 to 15%.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, but the way that he answered it, I have to believe him. Because everything that we're hearing is not to say third hand, but it's.
We're not there. We just hear what he tells us, and that's pretty much it.
Right, and we talk to other people, and who knows if they're manipulating the numbers a little bit. But at the end of the day, I feel like he was 100% truthful with us.
I got you. Once again, I am Jose V. This is Straight Bet Sports. We are being brought to you by Joshua Lafond of Simply Vegas Real Estate here on the Guerilla Cross Radio Network. Now, we're going to go ahead and get Duane. Not sure if we have him on the line yet. Not yet, Quan. We're still working on it. All right, cool. So we are going to get Duane Colucci on to come on. If you guys know Duane Colucci, Racing Sportsbook Manager from Rampart. We had him on a few weeks ago, and Sportsbook just reopened up. He got promoted. He's now the new main Racing Sportsbook Manager. He also came out with a new podcast where he's basically letting people know all the behind-the-scenes stuff, letting people know that are younger that it's not just about the sports betting aspect. There's a lot of horse racing out there that you can make a lot of money on and have a lot of fun with it, too. There's a track that I specifically like to bet on called Los Alamtios out of Orange County. They're quarter horses, so it's a lot shorter races. Rob likes to make fun of me because we had a bet on a race years ago, 2 horse. Get up there, too. You know what I'm talking about? But,
I remember that.
you know what I'm talking about? We actually won that way. But, yeah, it's like there's a lot more to gambling and sports betting. It's not just sports.
I don't know.
You only bet sports.
I only bet sports.
I don't know the ins and outs of horse racing.
Not right now, but I only bet sports.
I don't know the ins and outs of horse racing, but I like betting horses. You've seen. I've made calls. I've made bets of $2 and made $300. Granted, it's not going to happen every time.
I mean, I look at those pages that they print out at the sports book, and it's just like braille to me. Like I have no idea what I'm doing at that point, and there's numbers just all over the place. And yeah, I that's why I'm interested to hear from Duane. I want to hear what he says. I want to hear what he has to say.
So before we do get Duane, because we're still working on that,
draw some people in.
Question for you: You got a baseball cap on?
Yep.
MLB agreed. Let's run through this real quickly before we get Duane.
60 games?
I don't like it. I'm gonna be real with you. I don't like it. 60 games to me is just not enough. I mean, what are you really gonna do with 60 games? I get that some of the players are like, tell us when, tell us where, let's play. The owners just want to get it over with. But I mean, is 60 games really the answer to this? Is this really the right decision? I don't believe it is.
To a certain point, I think all of us want to get it over with, right? I kind of like it. I like it because 162 games a year is a lot, and
I agree.
That is, when you compare it to 60 games, a lot of people argue that 162 games is a lot of games. So for it to be a dead sprint from the beginning, I kind of like that aspect because, like I said on the previous shows, like anyone can take it. Anyone can take any league except for the NFL, obviously this year, if they're 100% by September or the second week of September, whatever it is. Any team can take the MLB, the NHL, or the NBA this year. So I kind of like it. It's a little new. I hope they adapt some of the rules. I guess there's a DH, right? Is there?
Correct. So they're getting rid of the pitcher in the National League, which I'm okay with that. I've never been cool with the pitcher.
At first, I
like
wasn't
the
okay.
DH.
At first, I wasn't okay because that was kind of like a unique part of part of baseball that, as much as a lot of people didn't like it, it was still part of the game. And, betting wise as well, you got to obviously bet when you bet the NL, you got to bet that there's obviously a pitcher going to bat too as well.
Correct. You handicap all that.
So many times I've lost a bet because the pitchers come up with bases loaded.
And you can't get a run.
And you
just
can't
fly
get
out
that
or
run. You can't get that one run in or a couple runs in.
And it kills your parlay or your straight bet or whatever it may be.
Yeah, so I kind of like it. Now I'm adapted to, I'm more open to it now than I was before. But I like it. I like the 60 games to see how it goes. And like everyone said, this is new for all of us, and we're gonna see how it plays out. And you may like it at the end, like you may not like it now, but at the end of the 60 games, and you're gonna see how exciting it is. And every game matters. Like, how awesome is that? Like in baseball, it's like nothing matters until after the All-Star break. Nothing matters until the All-Star break for the most part. Don't get me wrong, but yeah.
Now, obviously, you like betting futures more than I do. You're a big futures guy. Your Dodgers are the favorite to win the NL pennant. They're plus 120. Closest team next to them is the Braves at plus 800. Are your Dodgers going to run away with the National League with this 60-game shortened season?
I hope so. I mean, my household has been waiting for a Dodger World Series. I don't even want to talk about how long. Yeah, and then recently, obviously, what we've been going through, so many, almost heart attacks and stuff like that.
So you know what? Let's hold that thought.
I don't know. I hope so. Like I said,
let's hold that thought because it looks like we got Duane on the line now. So we'll go ahead and get Duane on. We'll also get his thoughts because he also mentioned in his podcast today that I listened to good stuff. If you guys have not listened to it, If and Reverse, check it out. Spotify, Anchor, Apple, all that stuff is out there. Great stuff by Duane, man, giving you a behind-the-scenes look of the Sportsbook. Too. I know, right? But he was talking about the odds and how the whole baseball thing, them going back and forth or whatever, it's kind of making his job a little more difficult. But let's go ahead and get right into it. Duane Colucci, Racing Sportsbook Manager from the Rampart Racing Sportsbook Casino, and now the new co-host of If and Reverse podcast. What's going on, my brother? How's it going out there tonight?
How are you, Jose? I'm doing well. What's going on, guys? I'm waiting for a Dodger World Series as well, Rob. We're waiting many, many years.
Let's go.
So Rob's not alone in this one for sure.
No, absolutely. Not at all, Jose. Not at all. I'm a Dodger guy myself, and just it's taking so long and such disappointment the last few years. It's heartbreaking.
We got cheated out of one, but that's all right.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and the Astros will pay the price this year. If you watch social media, everybody's saying already. Some books set totals on how many hit batsmen they'll have. Who will be the first guy to be hit as well? So it's going to be interesting.
The exact amount of batters that get hit too, like that's insane.
Yeah.
That's the exact amount of batters that they'll get hit throughout the entire 60-game season.
A total over/under on how many Astros to get hit. So
wow. So before we get into the betting stuff and the horse racing as well, Duane, we had you on here a few weeks ago on our first show, right before you guys reopened up the casino. How's everything going out there, especially in the sports book? Give us a little bit of your feedback.
Yeah, it's going pretty well, Jose. I got to say, the crowd for the horse racing has been off the hook, and I can't be more pleased. My guests are very pleased. They're practicing social distancing. You did happen to see today that Governor Sisolak now said we must wear masks anytime in the casino. The guests, I should say, when I'm partaking and going to a different property, will all have to be wearing masks, which I think is the right idea. You have to practice social distancing. I don't want to see another outbreak and a possible shutdown of the properties. So I back Governor Sisolak on this particular situation, Jose. And the crowds have been great. My handle has been off the hook. Despite not having the hotel open, we nearly reached last year's Belmont Stakes. I mean, just within a hair. And that's just a credit because I can only fill the book with half the bodies. I don't have a hotel open right now, but, they're firing away on horse racing. It's great.
So I was there the other day. I saw your pops. Your pops obviously never stops with the horse races. He's over here telling me, "Yeah, I hit this pick 3 the other day, and blah blah blah." Your pops is nonstop, man. I love your pops. Your pops is awesome. But I want to talk about your podcast real quick. I know I'm switching gears quick, but I saw that you posted it. I was at work today. It was a bit slow, so I put on the headphones and I started listening. I caught the first 30 minutes of it. I haven't been able to finish all of it. But I just want to say, man, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, but it's a great podcast. If you guys haven't checked it out, I love how you're in the first episode here, you're getting into how you got into it. You talk about Eric Sinclair, which technically is my old boss from when I worked at Eastside Cannery when we were there as well, and how you guys go back, and how I forgot the guy's name, but the person that brought you into it, and how there's so many other angles. There you go. So many other angles that younger people don't know about because they don't want to bet horse racing because they're so stuck into the whole sports betting aspect. Talk about your podcast a little bit and what you talked about in the first episode and what you got in store moving forward as well.
Yeah, thanks, Jose, for plugging it. I appreciate it. What it basically was, the first episode, I'm just giving you an introduction to my background. So I'm not playing games, basically. I've grown up around this horse racing, sports, bookmaking, you name it, I've been around it. And, to have such reputable guys bring us into the business, Jose. Eric was a great guy. His father-in-law was Bob Martin, who, if you read certain old school books, they'll tell you that Bob Martin was one of the first guys ever to put the total concept on the board, the over-under. So, when you're learning from history like that, and Sid Diamond, he's run so many different books, going from Circus, Excalibur. He had a hand in Luxor, the old school books. I believe he ran the Delmar race book that was on the strip back in the old days. So, to learn from these guys, and now at South Point, when you had Chris Andrews, you had Vinny Maiulo, Jimmy Vaccaro, it's good to learn from these guys. I tell you the truth. And I just want everybody to get a grasp on my background in the first episode. There's a lot of old school stories. I take it back to my days in Queens and Brooklyn, what I learned there at Aqueduct Racetrack, Belmont, social clubs, card rooms, stuff like that. So, that's the first episode. But moving forward, we're going to hit on the horse racing. We're going to hit on, basically everything. I hope to have you and Rob both on. We're going to have an awesome podcast. It's just going to be from a bookmaker's perspective as well as a gambler's perspective, guys. So we're going to give you that two-way action, and horse racing will be involved, like I said, NFL, NBA, the whole gamut, soccer, what have you.
So you're in the whole horse racing, it back and forth. You know it more than I do. I like to bet. I know how to bet here and there, but I'm not into the ins and outs of the daily racing form and all that. But you just had the Belmont Stakes here recently. You talked about that, how you guys had it here in Vegas with, in your book. And I know you're in top podcast. You're talking about you're giving out shirts and all that, and it went well. Now, we have the Kentucky Derby come up here, and in the daily racing form, I read about a horse, Cafe Pharaoh, which won the Unicorn Stakes by 5 lengths in the Tokyo race last week. Now, it's also being stated that there's a potential start for him to be in this year's Kentucky Derby, which is adding some international intrigue along with something that's unprecedented in the Derby. Now, do you see that happening? And if so, does he have a chance in this race coming up in September?
Well, history kind of plays against it, Jose. I'll be honest with you. A lot of horses have come from Dubai and, other foreign countries, and they have trouble with the big crowd, which, possibly will not be a factor this year. There might not be any crowd at Churchill Downs. So that could help the horse, definitely. They get a little, nervous, it seems like, the foreign animals. They're not used to the surroundings. Everything is more sequestered in Japan. And I believe that horse won a win and you're in, so definitely has a chance at the Kentucky Derby because of the point structure. He got enough points with that victory. So it definitely adds international flavor. It's another betting interest to go against Tiz the Law and some of the others. So definitely it's going to be interesting to see how the horse is affected. I think it's better for the horse if there is no crowd, because then he won't get as nervous. He'll be used to his surroundings, and we have to see who's going to ride the horse as well, if they're going to bring a jockey over or if one of the jockeys that are more familiar with the Churchill Downs surface will ride the horse. I think that would be the way to go. You get a top name rider who's used to riding in the American ovals and especially Churchill Downs. So I like that it's an international flavor. I think we need a little expansion this year just because of the fact that Bob Baffert's two main guns are basically on the shelf, Nadal and Charlatan.
Okay.
He has other options, but I don't think they're as, good as those two horses. So I like to see added flavor and an international horse. I like it.
So moving on into Los Al, which I wanted to talk to you about. Los Al is one of my favorite tracks just because it's the late night track as I like to see it. I've hit a few long shots. I've hit a few trifectas there. How's the handle been with you guys for Los Al, especially with some of the changes? I know we were talking about the other day. They're not just running quarter horses anymore. They're running a little longer races, like I think 4 furlongs or whatever it may be. How has your handle been with that, especially knowing that they're later races? I think some of the last races go off at like 10 o'clock at night almost. Are you getting any good handles with those type of racetracks right now?
Well, we're closing a little earlier, Jose. So, we're getting some good handle. And we just started, basically, I believe it was late last year, I signed the contract for Los Al.
Okay. Because
we have a more older crowd at the Rampart, and they tend to go home a little earlier.
They get the older tracks in there.
We hurry some in, right? But I love Los Al, and anything with horse racing, I'm going to basically sign a contract. So I love it. And like you touched upon, those first 4 or 5 races, you're seeing a lot of the thoroughbred jockeys and horses and trainers ship horses over there because you have 1,000 yards, you have 4.5 furlongs, like you said, and you're seeing an occasional, Andrew Lerner send a horse over there. Aaron Greider will take a mount. Eswan Flores will take a mount. So, definitely I love it. And it does add to the handle because now I'm getting a late night attraction other than just the harness racing, the buggy racing. And, that's kind of worse off than the regular thoroughbred. So I like that Los Al runs later. They start at 1 o'clock on Friday, the thoroughbreds, and then they will run the nighttime, quarter horse, somewhat shorter thoroughbred races. Michael Rona has to call both cards, which, it's going to be a true credit to him as a race caller, and it's going to be exciting. I like Los Al. Some of my customers are a little back and forth with it, but, leading up to the Del Mar meet, some of these trainers start to ship all their horses to Del Mar. So you see a little lower class horse guys, but that doesn't mean that you can't pop a big one. And I've had some tremendous scores. About a month ago, Jose, I popped a $6,600 pick 4 there.
Wow.
Off of like a $48 ticket or a $50 ticket. So,
that's
I
like
Los Al. I think it's very formful. You watch some certain riders, Ramon Gucci, stuff like that. You'll be all right.
Gucci's one of the main. He's one of the main riders at Los Al, correct?
Yeah, he's a beast at night. I tell you, him and Pierres is another great rider, and he was from the Santa Anita Del Mar circuit, and I see that he has mounts at both early in the afternoon and late at night. So it's going to be interesting to see which riders do that as well.
And not only that, even though you guys close early, at least this is what I do. You can bet your races ahead of time and go home and watch them on TVG. You don't necessarily have to be like, oh, the book is closing up, I can't watch my races. You know what I mean? That's the good thing about it as well.
No, and we keep the video wall on all night, and we have the kiosk. So the kiosk is 24 hours, and that takes horse bets. So, it's very friendly, user-friendly, and it's awesome. I mean, we're getting some really good handle on the kiosks as well. So Los Al is a major attraction. I like it. Leads right into Del Mar. I believe they're closing the 5th, and Del Mar opens the 10th. So There's a little dry spell in between, but not too much to affect the book.
What's the biggest hit? So far? Cash ticket, horse bet so far since the opening.
Biggest cash ticket. Well, we had that big Super Bowl bet on the Chiefs. I don't know if you saw that, Rob. I tweeted that. That was like $150,000 on the Chiefs. A guy made a straight bet with us in the Super Bowl. Yikes. The biggest horse ticket I've paid. I have to go back to when we were in the old Sportsbook room in the Rampart, and I remember where a guy hit close to $500,000.
Wow.
And they take out 28% of that.
Yeah,
and I remember we had to wait the 24 hours because back in the old days, you had to wait 24 hours if you hit a ticket like that in Las Vegas because the LVDC Parimutuel Board had to make a double check on it, make sure everything was, systematically right and, the communications were right. But I remember that vividly. Yeah, it was close to
anything since reopening.
That's been like the largest payoff that I've seen.
Anything since reopening? Any big hits since reopening?
Since the reopening, we've had some nice ones. I'll tell you the truth. The new race in Sportsbook, In the new book, Rob, we've had paid a $60,000. I will say, and I don't want to brag, but my old man, since we opened since COVID,
let's hear it.
Popped the pick 5 for, it was $9,000.
That's what he was telling me the other day.
Belmont, right, and then he hit the pick 4 as well, and that paid like $2,500.
So dinner's on Pops. Dinner's on Pops.
Changed all of the tax laws, and my dad's ticket was so small, they still took out the 28%.
Wow.
He missed it by $2. If he would have had $32 instead of $30, he gets the whole $9,000. Instead, they took out the 28% because of $2. It was more than 300 times the base wage over the $9,000.
Well, Duane, we're already out of time here. We got you in right at the last minute. I know it was a quick little interview here, but you know what? I greatly appreciate you coming on with us and giving us all that feedback. We got to have you on more often, man. I told you, I want to talk more horse racing. We got to get that on the show. But right before we let you go, one more time, let everybody know where they can find you and plug your podcast one more time, my man.
Yeah, thanks, Jose. If and Reverse, you can find the podcast. It's on Apple Pods, Spotify. It's floating around there, and you could always find all the great information at the, of the Rampart Casino on my Twitter feed at NYBookieDuane. And the podcast is going to be off the hook. I hope you guys join. And that was a super interview, guys, with the Lights owner. I really learned a lot.
Appreciate it.
I don't really follow that much because I don't have time, but excellent. You really asked the right questions. And, if and Reverse, I hope I could follow your guys' lead. Excellent new podcast from a bookmaker's perspective, and Twitter at New York Bookie Duane, NYBookie DUANE.
My guy, Duane Colucci. Appreciate you, Duane. Have a good night, brother.
Thank you guys so much. Anytime. I really appreciate coming on.
Yes, sir. All right, so we're at the end now. I know Quan wants to kick us out, so we got to go. No, I'm just kidding. But good show, man. Rob, I really appreciate you because today you came up. You came up big. I ain't going to lie. You stepped up today. I give you props, man.
So you got to ask those questions.
That's all it is,
you got to ask those questions.
So once again, I am Jose V. This was another episode of Straight Bet Sports brought to you by Joshua Lafond of Simply Vegas Real Estate. We are on the Guerilla Cross Radio Network. Big shout out to Rob G. Quan behind the big board is always taking care of us. My boy Jaime in the studio from Free Your Soul brand. Go ahead and check him out. Remember, 15% off if you use code StraightBet. Joel be in the background taking pictures. Brett Lashbrook of the Las Vegas Lights came through. We greatly appreciate it. So I'm going to end with this. If someone lies to you, make sure you get your facts straight.
Right.
Once again, I am Jose V. This is Straight Bet Sports. I'm out.
See ya.